Alright, let's be real. If you had SpongeBob's life, would you be smiling 24/7? Think about it, bro. He wakes up at 4 a.m. every day for a job that barely pays him. His boss is greedier than the USA for oil in the Middle East. His neighbor straight up despises him. And his best friend is, well, Patrick. And yet, this guy is the happiest sea sponge alive. How? What's going on inside that little porous head of his? Is he a happiness genius, or is my guy straight up delusional like you? Today, we're diving deep into the psychology of SpongeBob SquarePants. Welcome back to the Binge Platter, and get ready with your hot smoking meal, because this one's gonna be fun. The Eternal Optimist. Is he delusional? SpongeBob isn't just happy. He's unstoppably, aggressively, almost violently happy. Doesn't matter what happens. He gets fired, still smiling. Squidward insults him, laughs it off, nearly dies in a boating accident. That was fun! SpongeBob has what's called a learned optimism. For example, in SpongeBob You're Fired, he loses his dream job.
You're fired.
Yes, somehow flipping burgers is his dream. But instead of panicking, he turns unemployment into an adventure. Instead of sulking, he's like, oh well, time to be a chimney sweeper, a dish cleaner, and a paper boy. This is so fun. This is what psychologist Martin Seligman called learned optimism. It's not just natural happiness, it's a trained ability to turn negatives into positives. So yeah, SpongeBob might be a little crazy, but he's crazy in a way that actually makes life better. Unlike your crazy that makes you lose sleep over someone who doesn't even like you. Anyways, let's talk about his MBTI a bit. He is an ENFP, the campaigner. If SpongeBob took an MBTI test and somehow didn't break the system, he'd 1000% be an ENFP, the campaigner. SpongeBob is the ultimate ENFP, wild energy, endless creativity, and more emotions than a soap opera. Remember Band Geeks? Squidward's band is a disaster, but SpongeBob somehow turns it into a full-blown stadium rock concert. That's peak ENFP behavior, turning chaos into magic. Want to know who else is an ENFP? Robin Williams, Spider-Man, and Joy from Inside Out. It's basically the happiest personality type alive. All of these people have the same wild, creative, happy energy.
Guests, could I offer you some lemonade?
Get out!
And now, the dark side. Is SpongeBob too happy? Let's talk about the dark side of SpongeBob's happiness. Because yes, it exists. He craves validation. Squidward clearly hates him, but SpongeBob needs his approval. He lacks boundaries. Have you ever had a friend that's just a little too clingy? That's SpongeBob. And if you don't have that friend, it's you. He obsesses over perfection. Like when he tried to be a male model and had an existential breakdown when he failed.
Oh, shiver my timbers!
In the paper, SpongeBob finds endless joy in a tiny piece of garbage. But when Squidward realizes it's actually cool and wants it back, SpongeBob refuses. This is one of the few times we see SpongeBob flex power over someone else. He loves being in control of his happiness. This is called toxic attachment. He needs people to like him and his extreme happiness. It's not just personality, it's partly a defense mechanism. Pros and cons of SpongeBob's personality. SpongeBob has some amazing traits, but also a few that might make you want to scream. His pros. Unbreakable optimism. You cannot ruin this guy's mood, like ever. Creative problem solving can turn anything into fun.
25.
Even a piece of paper. Loyal friend. He will never abandon you, even if you want him to.
I bet if he had just one friend, he wouldn't be such a meanie.
Fearless. Takes on any challenge, no hesitation. Hardworking. Say what you want, but this man is the employee of the month for a reason.
I work harder. You could win it too if you tried harder.
His cons. Lacks boundaries. Bro doesn't understand personal space at all. Overly emotional cries. A lot. Probably too much. More than you for sure. Needs constant approval. If Squidward smiled at him once, he'd talk about it for years.
Hey, thanks, SpongeBob. You're a real friend.
Friend.
No.
Oblivious to reality. He doesn't just ignore problems, he refuses to see them. Workaholic to a fault. bro, it's just a burger-flipping job. Relax. SpongeBob isn't just a happy-go-lucky sea sponge. He's a walking psychological experiment. His optimism, a learned skill, his enthusiasm, the reason he turns boring situations into the best time ever. His boundaries, non-existent. But the biggest lesson, happiness isn't about what happens to you, it's about how you react to it. And if all else fails, just eat a Krabby Patty and call it a day. If you made it this far, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Which cartoon character should we analyze next? Because if you don't, Doodle Bob will pay you a visit.